Hi, I'm Jones, and welcome to the channel. I wanted to talk to you a little bit about our story so far. Everybody's story is going to be different. Ours is definitely not your typical foster placements, and yours is going to be a little bit different too. There's some people that go ahead and get their first foster kid in. If they're fostering to adopt, sometimes that works out and they get to adopt right off the bat. Other times you don't. We've been fostering now for going on about 9 months. In that time, we are on foster kid number 9 and looking at maybe bringing 10/11. Our focus has been on family groups. We don't want to see the kids get split up. And so we do what we can to try and take as many of them as we can so that that doesn't have to happen. Our first three came to us, and we had an age range of 3 to 12. Well, we got our 3-year old, and we got a 6-year old that turned 7 while we had him, and we also got a 1.5-year old. And I gotta tell you, our 1.5-year old stole my heart. She was my best friend, and I was hers. Not to say that I didn't love our other two, but it was something I wasn't expecting. They were supposed to only be with us for 2 weeks, and they ended up being with us for 38 days. 38 fantastic days. And we learned a lot in that time. That was our first group. There's a lot to learn with the system, and there's a lot of moving parts and a lot of paperwork. And 3 isn't too bad, to be perfectly honest. From the same sibling group, that's really kind of one set of paperwork times 3. Now, moving on to our next group, we had a pair of siblings that came in, and this was for Easter weekend. They were on their way to their forever home, and on the way, they got the phone call saying, "Hey, don't bother bringing them. We're not going to take them." They were in a loving foster home. They couldn't get back a hold of those foster parents, and the parent, because they were just foster to foster, and the foster to adopt parents that were going to take them backed out. So they sat in the CPS office all of Friday looking for a place to go. And they finally got to us and asked us if we could take them. And due to logistics, we weren't going to be able to take them for a long time, but we did not want them to sit in a CPS office all weekend, especially on Easter weekend. Not that that really makes a difference, but so we took in a 6-year-old and a 10-year-old, and we had them for all of 15 hours. They got to us about 2 in the morning, and by 5 o'clock the next day, they were gone. But during that time, we tried to make as many memories as we could. Unfortunately, I had to work in that morning, but my wife spent time with them. We took them after I got off work to a park with a river and just took them on a nature walk, and then took them to a nice lunch. And during that lunch, we got the call that they had found another foster home for them, and if we could please go drop them off. And so that's what we did. When our 10-year-old left, he broke my heart. He burst into tears and was just saying he wanted a place to stay and it for it just to be over. I don't know how many times they've been moved. I'm really hoping that first foster home, where he absolutely loved it and they loved him, was the first one and only one he was in before us, and then this next one. But I couldn't tell you. Then we got 2 more little ones. Well, I say little, but 4 and 6. And that was our first placement where they were of a different religion and had different needs. They were Muslim. We're a Christian family. But we weren't going to turn them away because of that. We were going to find and meet their needs and get them plugged into their social groups and everything that they need to be so they can grow in their culture. But they were terrified of dogs, and we have 2 dogs. They're the sweetest dogs in the world, but these kids were just absolutely terrified, to the point where they wouldn't leave their room. The little one would go and get on the top bunk bed and would not leave the top bunk bed. So we ended up having them moved just for the simple fact that we didn't want them to be terrified all the time. And being terrified of the dogs and living in that state is just not a good condition for them. And that's part of what fostering is about. When they go to do placement, they try and place these kids with the most compatible and best fit for them, as well as the family. And this just wasn't working. So they were only with us for a few days, but in that few days, I went through all the paperwork. I went through all the things you need to do when you first get the kids in. Even enrolled our older one, into school. So yeah. And then after them, we got our another another 1.5-year-old, and she absolutely stole my wife's heart. This was the first time she had the experience that I had with our first placement. She was only with us for 2 weeks, and even in those 2 weeks, she ripped a piece of our hearts out. Which all of them do. Whenever they go, they all take a piece of our hearts. They're always going to be part of our family. If they ever need us, we'll always be there. And 3 weeks went by. We didn't get a placement for 3 weeks. There were ones that were coming through, and they'd fall through, and then we had ones that were possible, and then all of a sudden they weren't, and this, that, and the other. Until the 3 weeks went by, and I got a call saying, "Hey, we got a little boy who's 3. What do you think?" And I'm like, "Yeah." Sent him our way, talked to my wife, got all that squared away, and he was scheduled to come earlier in the night, right after my wife got off work, because I was working nights at the time. And then about 2 hours later, I get a call directly from CPS, letting us know that our little girl had to be going back in the system, and do we want her? Like, yeah, send her over. Oh, you want to talk to your wife? No, I know what she's going to say. In a heartbeat, she'll take her back. Please go ahead and send her over. Okay, well, please go ahead and talk to your wife. Okay, I'll call you back in 5 minutes. Wait 5 minutes. Okay, yeah, send her over. So she came back later that night, and we ended up getting 2 placements at once. Our little boy right now is still with us, and our little girl went back with her family as of a few days ago, a week ago, however long. But point being, this is our 9th placement within the year, and we are looking forward to moving forward and getting other placements in. We don't know why, for whatever reason, we are getting these kind of placements, or for so long, for such a short period of time, but we know there's a greater reason. And all we can do is love these kids every day and try and make a change and a loving impact in their life for the better every day that we have them. Now, like I said, everyone is going to have a different story. I don't know what yours is going to be. I don't know what yours has been. But what I do know is there are kids that are sitting around in CPS offices waiting for a loving family, a loving person to bring them into their home and just show them unconditional love and help them become better versions of who they are. Let me go ahead and stress that too. We're going to talk about this in another video, but you don't have to be a family for you to become a foster parent. It's foster parent, not foster parents, right? Single adults can also become foster parents. Really, the stipulation is, can you support yourself before you support these kids? And that's really what it comes down to. I mean, there's more to it, but as far as moving forward and starting to go into the deeper stuff, that's all they're looking for. You really just need to search your heart, see if it's for you, and understand whether these kids are going to be bettered by staying with you. And chances are that it will be. So some of these kids come from some pretty significant backgrounds that make it hard for them to love, make it hard for them to trust. But over time, they come around.